I was heartbroken, man. I didn't see it coming. I thought it was just like a back problem. Like I thought back problems were for guys getting out, looking to get out of stuff.
Hey, got something really cool I wanted to run by and let you know what's going on. So I'm starting a group that will start taking a deep dive into each one of these episodes. So we'll collectively come together and talk about the shows, talk about the guests. I'll be bringing back some of the guests to do some Q&A sessions and really take a further dive into their story, their journey, the episode, talk about, maybe some of the things you wish I would have asked on the episodes, do some Q&A sessions and the like. As a friend put it to me, it's really like a book club, but for the podcast. So a couple times a week, we'll go in, we'll break down the favorite shows of the week, and have cool discussions around everything that we've heard, we've learned, and want to know about their journey. Some of these guests will come in and they'll teach part of, what makes them awesome at what they do. And then, as always, I'll be providing regular value and content in this group. It's really cool because this only is going to cost $5 a month to join this group. And you'll be able to come in, interact with everybody else in there. So I'll put a link right in the show notes for this that you can jump in, come have a conversation with us, and we will really deep dive into each one of these episodes and help us all rise up together. Thanks for tuning in, guys. It's going to be a great show today. Having the show wasn't something I started out to do. But the day I found out somebody wanted to really sponsor the show was a really, really cool experience. So, guys, I want you to take some time to go check out Point Blank Safety Services and their new nonprofit, Blue Family Fund. These guys are doing some really, really cool things. And Stacy McGovern, who's the CEO over there, has been a dear friend, and she was a guest on the show. But these guys are literally taking, the off-duty officers and putting them out in security guard role. And here's what's cool about it is, as they're protecting our lives, they don't make a whole lot of money in that regard. No first responders are paid for the value they provide for our safety and our health and taking care of us. So these guys, Stacy and her team over at Point Blank Safety Services have really found a cool way to give back to these officers by helping them provide an additional income so they can continue to support and protect us. So do me a favor, guys. Seriously, go check out pointblanksafety.com and then go look at their nonprofit, which is Blue Family Fund. Now, this nonprofit was created because of the success of Point Blank Safety Services. They wanted to give back to the families of fallen officers and be able to give scholarships away to the families of current, police officers. So do me a favor. It would mean the world to me if you would go out and help support this show by supporting Point Blank Safety Services and their nonprofit Blue Family Fund. Just tell them Donnie has sent you. You heard it on Donnie Success Champions, and Stacy will take a tremendous and amazing care of you. Thanks, guys.
All right, guys, so this is going to be an interesting episode. So I'm bringing on my buddy Chris Griffith, and him and I have had some interactions online. I've busted his chops on a couple of his posts out there because the dude goes extreme with this stuff. So I'm really looking forward to this episode. Chris, brother, welcome to the show, my friend. Please share your story.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you having me on, and thank you to both of your other viewers.
Woo, both two.
Man,
Richard,
my story. See, I don't even know if anyone's on here, but Richard's always around. He's awesome.
Right.
All right, so my story. Well, I'll start real quick with where I'm at now. I'm in Texas. I am a self-employed business owner. I own a company that originates home loans. I also am a real estate investor. I'm fairly successful in that lane. I've been out and medically retired now for about, I said that and I looked down at this just to throw this out. I'm going to throw this and you're not going to see it again, but Costco and Sam's sells these little gel grids. And for any of y'all with back or butt problems, man, I'm telling you what. Anyway,
So he literally just picked up this whole
edit that out.
and showed it to me. I mean, I got to go get one now.
Dude, it has all these grids on it to make sitting a breeze. So anyways, I've been retired because of my back, which is why I showed you this gel pad thing for, I guess it's December of 2011, so 7 years now-ish coming up on. Transition for me, it was rough, man. I floundered. I wasn't ready for it. It wasn't what I wanted, so I'll kind of back up a little bit. I was in for right about 8 years in the Marine Corps. Started out 5954 communication technician for an air traffic control, mobile air traffic control team. It was a 6-man team. We set up expeditionary airfields, that sort of things. FARPs, did some NEO stuff, all kinds of cool little stuff. Nothing any real world or sexy or anything. Went on a couple floats, 260. Transitioned from a 5954 over to CI Human. I was in 0211. And got through all of the beginning of that, the schoolhouse, which is pretty ridiculous, and through some additional training after I got through there, all the way up to, got through SEER and a few other courses that were kind of leading up to why I got out. But yeah, I got up to jump school, man, and I had a seat, and I came back from SEER, and I spent like a weekend in bed, and I thought I maybe should get my back checked out finally, and I did, and they were like, you're not going to jump school. I'm like, bullshit. I was heartbroken, man. I didn't see it coming. I thought it was just like a back problem. Like I thought back problems were for guys getting out, looking to get out of stuff. And I was always a little bit too head over heels into everything.
So did you get hurt? Yeah,
well, and I didn't go through all of that a couple different times, man. Going through McMap instructor's course, a couple different humps, man. After a while, got SEER school. Didn't help it, and then a couple driving courses I was in. Nothing sexy, no major injuries.
Well, to the civilians that know, when he says things like humps, man, that's just imagine an 80-pound pack in your back with shitty boots, full fatigues, and carrying a gun. So you're way to fuck down by somebody who, bid the lowest damn price to put gear together and sent you out on your way. You guys who listen to the show know that's how I broke all my damn feet when I was in. So that was just normal wear and tear that whooped your ass.
Yeah, and it was, and it did, and it added up, and I never stopped to get anything checked out because I was too busy, ready to run head first into the next, or face first, however you want to say it, into the next thing. And I did. So it all came, boom, crashing to a halt there. They ordered some MRIs, did some CAT scans and some other stuff, had a bunch of back problems, herniations, desiccation, complete degeneration and some other stuff, not whatever.
The perfect cocktail of shitstorm in your spine.
Dude, yeah, and then they told me there was some hip problems and my knee was broken down because I'd been hobbling for a few years trying to, get by because I had stuff to do, right? I was like one of those Iraqis you see on the moped with like 8 foot of stuff stacked above him. Like he's losing a little, but he's getting a lot done while he's moving. So that's how I was doing it. And then boom, they told me would have to have probably a 4-level fusion. They wanted to do it at Lejeune there. They either recommended I have the fusion or get retired, or they would just retire me and I should hold off until I hopefully could be 35 or older because of the loss of mobility. So like heartbreak, dude.
Just the thought of having a surgery on Lejeune scared.
Yeah, this was like 27. Yeah, I can't drink the water, and you want to do what? Yeah, exactly. And then so I asked the doc, I'm like, hey, what are your percent? Give me the numbers, guy, man. Give me a percent here. And he's like, well, 50% chance you stay the same, 25% chance your pain gets worse, 25% chance it gets better. And I'm thinking, so shitty numbers, man.
The odds are not nice.
I'm glad mortgages aren't that hard to sell. Good Lord. I don't like working for the government, I guess, the constant supply of dudes with broke backs. So that was at 27, I think, 26, 27. And then they retired me.
God
boom.
Bless.
It was like 10 months from that moment until I was retired. It was fast.
Wow. And I'm assuming at that point it's immediate 100%.
No. They've got me at 90 right now. I've had probably 2 years that have been pretty brutal. I've got to find a new pain clinic down here in Texas. Texas is harder to treat pain than it is in Colorado. Because if you go to anywhere, giggle, truth. Right. Like, honestly, man, you know the difference in the pharmaceuticals Lejeune gave me versus concentrates and other forms of THC and CBD products in Colorado? My family, my church, my friendships. I don't have major problems and fallouts and mood swings from the pills they put me on to change mood or increase pain or decrease pain, excuse me. But
perspective, I had was it Alex Feiner and Chad Davenport on here and telling their story. Listen to those guys. I forget if it was Chad or Alex, you know, was on like 18 pills from the government and was basically putting himself in a coma state on a regular basis to try and handle all of his shit. So I love picking this battle. They got to legalize that shit sooner than
they do. They do,
because
because I'm tired of my friends dying because they get them hooked on some bad shit and their life gets totally flipped upside down.
Yep.
Like, you know what happens? Like, people are so worried about stoners. You know what happens with stoners when they drive? They use their blinkers a little too soon, right? They're driving a little slow. They're in the far right lane because they can't get over any further. You know, I mean, like I'd rather.
What was it I heard a comedian say one time is you know, stoners don't destroy things. They're architects. You know, they make a bong out of everything. You know,
right? There's a MacGyver in every one of them.
Right.
And I was so hard against it. I never smoked, never touched this stuff in high school. I tried it like twice I was around it twice and was past a joint that I didn't really touch, and smoked it one time, true and good, in high school. Ate 8 nectarines. It was awesome, and never touched this stuff again. I fried guys in the Marine Corps over popping on piss tests for it. And then when a VA doctor, I was getting med board, and a VA doctor said, listen, man, if you get to a state with this, you need to consider trying and get rid of all of these pills and try that. And I looked at him square in the eye, you know, and hurting with tears, and I said, shut up, hippie. No joke, man. I was hardcore against it. My wife finally talked me into trying it, and it made a huge difference while we're in Colorado. Now we're in Texas anyway.
Yeah, and rules have changed. I had Robert Caudill on the show, too, and he runs a yoga studio out of California, and he's you know, full-on hippie now. I mean, the dude even talks like a hippie. It's great. I love talking to the guy. But, you know, he's using yoga and marijuana and everything else to help those guys trying to transition because, you know, the government's answers is how many pills can I throw at them?
It is Cymbalta, Elavil, Ambien, Tramadol, Nucynta, gabapentin. I could keep going here. All of these things cause major, like, chemical cocktail changes for people with dopamine and serotonin and norepinephrine, and it causes them to not be themselves. So for anyone listening to this, like, I was not a fan of it. I tried it against my will. I kept a diary, Donnie. Listen to my accent. I kept a diary because I am ambitious, man. I worked my butt off, and I did not want to lose that. I was terrified of that. But what I found was it wasn't the case at all. I was still exactly who I was. I hurt a little bit less, and I didn't have as crazy problems dealing with the problems associated with my disability.
Well, and I want to ask about that diary just here for 2 seconds, but, you know, just to put mine out there as well, is I still hate marijuana. I mean, I did a lot of drugs in my time. When I got out of the Marine Corps, it was what I could ever get my freaking hands on. But I hated marijuana because it was the only thing I didn't feel like I could control. Like when I drank alcohol, I knew to a certain point that, you know, okay, I'm drunk. But for weed.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You were just stoned immediately.
Yeah.
So do you remember, like, how old were you when you first started drinking?
Oh, shit. I remember stealing plugs off Dad's beer when I was like
13?
Yeah, no.
Okay. Okay, drinks. I'm talking about, like, to where you got drunk the first time.
Oh, shit. 12, 13, right around there.
Okay. Right, I got it. You remember how it was until you were around, I mean, even at 18, 19, I mean, did you not struggle like me? Like every time I touched the beer, it's like, I'm good, and touch it, and boom. The next thing I know, my shirt off, it's party time, right? I'm just saying, in the beginning, I got drunk so much faster and so much easier, and I didn't know how to control it. And as a person who met marijuana way late in their life, it was very simple. It was not even, like the first probably month that I began using it, like I was super paranoid anyway, so I didn't go anywhere. No, but I mean, there was an adjustment period, and I'll definitely say with edibles, you want to stay away from those. Those things hit you like a train, and they do not stop. A lot of the creams, a lot of the salves, Mary Medicinals makes a lot of different stuff in some of those states that offer it. Those products are really good segues to get into it. They make bath bombs and stuff like that. They even have capsules now, 10 milligram capsules, which are good small dosing beginning amounts so that you can kind of stage into it. It's just like anything else, even with a lot of these prescriptions that we're talking about, they start you out at 200 milligrams, and then the next thing you know, you're banging it out at 8K over here. Like 8,000 milligrams of what? Like, geez.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's the same kind of thing.
Sorry. No, you're good. It's just, it was just never one of the ones that I got into. But
I get that.
I will say that the guys that I've seen do the transition off the pills to CBD and to marijuana to everything else, the transition is fucking night and day. I mean, you get to somebody who's a violent, aggressive, because they can't turn off everything and they're hurting, right? And now they're completely trans, and Chris is over here. But, the crazy thing is, as you watch these guys, they're completely become somebody else, and they come back to probably who they grew up as, which is an impressive, amazing thing. But you said something, Chris, in there that I want to jump into. So I'm a huge journaler, okay? I've been journaling for a number of years, and it completely changed my life once I started journaling. So much so I even wrote an ebook on it called That's Not How You Journal, Jackass. If you listen to this podcast, you'll know where that story came from. But I'm curious, when you started down this path, why did you start a diary?
Honestly, it was like an abacus for me. It was like I worked this many hours today. I felt this way about the work that I was doing. I wanted to make sure in every which way I could, I wanted to measure my ambition and my progress to make sure that I wasn't having a lack of desire towards it. What I found was I didn't really achieve a lot less, and I used that to kind of tally through it. But what I found was, and even in the journal, I began to track, it literally made me do things that I enjoyed more. I would garden while I took phone calls all morning, right? I would grow tomatoes, and I'd have flowers and all kinds of stuff. I like that sort of thing. Cut this part out.
Yeah,
cut this part out, Dominic. I've got 3 daughters, man, and not an ounce of shame, not any.
You're the dude talking about flowers. Dude, that is going to be the clip that starts this whole show.
Yeah, I like flowers, what the hell? I like flowers.
That's awesome. So are you still doing the diary? I mean, is it still something you're doing, or was that just a short?
No, it was just a very short-term thing for me to have some sort of, lifeline tied over there so I could go, nope, You know what I mean? It was some sort of way for me to measure it instead of having other people. Have you seen 50 First Dates?
No.
It's like why, what's her name made the video for herself instead of letting Adam Sandler do it every morning. You'd have to see the movie for that to make sense. I'm hoping some of these 2 viewers get it.
They probably will. And then
I wanted to tell myself, basically.
Yeah, they're going to bust my chops for not asking you questions and shit on that, I'm sure. You got to see some of the comments I get from some of these podcasts. They crack me up. They're like, oh, you should ask the dude this. I'm like, well, freaking throw a comment in it. I'll hook you up. But so you've transitioned now. Do you feel like the government at that point gave up on you? Or do you think that it was necessary to get you out?
I don't have any hard feelings to the government, to the Marine Corps. We were talking to my daughters about this, and I explained to them kind of how it all happened, because they always want to know, Daddy, why don't you go jump on the trampoline?
Right.
I'm like, get out of here. No, we talked. I talked to them. And my middle daughter, Charlie, asked, she said, well, if you could do it all over again, would you? And I looked at her, and my oldest is shaking her head, and she goes, yeah, he'd do it all over again. And Charlie's like, I bet he wouldn't. But she gets me. Blakely, my oldest, gets me, and I would. I have no hardships, no hard feelings. I didn't feel like I was cast off or let go of. I felt like if you're a part of an Olympic team and then you have a life-injuring, like a career-ending injury, and you're a 6-man bobsledder, like, pucker up, sweetheart. Life's coming at you hard. You ain't part of a 6-man bobsled anymore.
Right.
Like, get your ass over there and sit down on the bleachers and clap. That's how you're, I don't know. You carry some towels. I felt the same, man. I felt like, look, It was good to me. I'm glad I'm taken care of now pretty well, especially with the retirement. I do get TRICARE at least, which helps because I get to move doctors a little bit easier, and I don't have to go to the VA. Like, who the hell knows what's going to happen down there, man? That's like doing a loan with Wells Fargo. You may die at the end of it. Like, shit, my sneeze ain't that bad. But I felt like they had a process to transition me out. They did with the med board. I had some older guys I listened to, and I made certain that I went through the process. And even though I was in a terrible mental state, dude, I was like, I hate using the word depression because I don't think it was depression. Like, I've never been suicidal. Like, I've been asked those questions. I try to tell them, like, listen, I'm not the one I have a problem with. I'm not the suicidal type. Homicidal? Nah, maybe. Like, it's y'all that I don't like. Right. But, I mean, it was hard for me. I did not want to get out. I was hurt. I did not know what I was going to do. I didn't have a plan. I knew I had capabilities and ability, and I felt like I could wing something, which was stupid. I had 2 daughters. I'm like, I don't know. Yeah, I'll use my GI Bill.
Describes 95 of people who get out of the military.
I thought, you know what? All those guys seem like they're jumping off that cliff. Just fine, babe. Let's just go behind them and I'll figure it out. Don't do it. Stay out of the herd mentality. Like, you're right. Most of the guys do it that way, and it's a terrible way to plan. You need something better, even if you totally scrap it and start over with something else. Have something solid in place.
Yeah, I love telling this portion is I was lucky when I got out. I got out in 99, and my best friend and his dad had an HVAC company, so I had a job. I at least had something to do. The great side of that is I had income. I had a job coming in. The downside of that is I didn't learn anything. I picked up a sales role, but because I immediately stepped into that, I think I missed the whole ambitious entrepreneur blood until a lot later in my life because, it was just go get a job and work for somebody. I mean, that was the answer to I go from having income, not much, to having income, not much, and the difference is now somebody's not telling me how to live my life, 24 hours a day. Yeah,
and I was very much raised in a cash household job type. My dad was self-employed, but job mentality was really all I ever had, even going into the Marine Corps. When I got out, luckily, I had a family member, my stepfather, my mom. They had a spec house they built in 2007 that hadn't sold. And they had invested in an education company, one of those you see on Facebook, one of those bigger courses, $30,000 or whatever they are, that teach different aspects of investing. And this one was a multifamily investment course with Dave Lindahl. And they'd gone to the seminars and hadn't really done anything with it, but they had the books and stuff and some other material, and we had coaching calls. So the deal was we could live in the house if I would continue help pursue acquiring apartments and build and scale that company. And they didn't have the means themselves to do it all, but they had some people to work with. So I had that at least, which I thought was a decent start. So we had a place to sleep. We didn't have really anything to put in it and didn't have any money to go see family that was 15 minutes away. But hell, it's like, I got that going for me, and that was nice. So.
Right.
So, Murray.
How long did it take you to get your feet underneath you after you got out?
I got out. I was back down there, and probably this was Lake Texoma. I was on the Oklahoma side of the deal. And probably 2 years, a year and a half, maybe. No, it wasn't even that long. From Jane, so I got out in December, and I moved out to Colorado at that time. My stepfather had a small mortgage brokerage that they were looking to scale, and they didn't have any employees at that point. Everyone had just kind of left their company completely, and they were in kind of a rough spot. So he told me if I would come out there that he would basically hire me on. I'm doing a video. I can go away. My kid.
You're good. We'll edit it.
So I told him, he told me if I come out there, I could work for him as an assistant and learn the loan business. He needed the help. And I'd done investing with him before. I'd purchased a rental property with reenlistment bonus money I had from my reenlistment. So he already knew my capability. After he saw what I was doing with the apartment company, we'd already found a property and had it under contract, 232 units, big property. which we own now, by the way. Long story on that one. So I held up that end. He hired me on to come out to Colorado in like August. And so at that point I had a very small base of income, and we were living with them in their basement. And that's what I would call on my feet, maybe, because I had a job. I had a foothold. And here's what I'll say. I had a foothold into an opportunity. And David wasn't a great teacher. My stepfather, whom I love, man, the guy is a very smart person. He wasn't a great teacher, but I'm good at consuming information. So I had an opportunity to learn from him. And, here
we are. That's awesome. I mean, well, and a lot of times, and I love letting the veterans come on and kind of share that story because, there's a huge movement in the U.S. right now where you got so many guys coming out of the military, and a lot of these companies don't know how to hire them. They don't know how to work with them. And, it's as much on the veteran as it is the company to both meet somewhere in the middle. I mean, the veteran's got to up their damn game to be employable, and the company's got to understand that they've got a unique assets that they have to work with that, they're going to get it done. You may not always like the way it gets done, but the mission's going to be accomplished, and that's how they're used to functioning. I said this when I was being interviewed, is the veterans can be looped in somewhat with the millennials with the work ethic. Difference being is we're going to run our own schedules. We're going to do our own thing. We're going to be loud. We're going to come in. We're going to crash and break shit, but we're going to get it done. The millennials are the same way. They just do it on their time. Right. So if we understand how to work with them and we make adjustments as our companies, then we can embrace these guys coming out and find a way to work with them. But the problem is too many people see the TV shows or the TV commercials, and that's all they see in these military guys and gals. So I appreciate you, sharing that, because I think it's a good way for people to get insights of what they're dealing with.
I would say that no matter what the cover looks like, always read the book. Right? There's you truly can't judge any book by cover. And listen, I love vets and I love what they've obligated themselves to do, but some solid turds out there, man. And I mean, worse than some civilians. I mean, you can't ascribe to anybody positive things that they haven't earned. So to anyone watching this, veterans have a lot of skill sets, but they don't all have desire anymore. And that's not a problem necessarily if you can reignite the desire. I'm a fan of blowing life, breathing life into somebody. I want to figure out how to help them use their talents to accomplish the things that they're trying to achieve, and I've always enjoyed that. So,
well, and I think that's what proof in the whole push of this whole small business America coming back, and I love all these companies and things are starting, is there's that more of that care aspect that the Fortune 1s and the Fortune 5s don't traditionally have, is you're an employee, I mean, you might as well go back in the military at that point because nobody gives a shit about you. But these smaller companies, you can embrace these guys and go with it. I mean,
no one was talking about this until all of the craft brewers popped up, spouting beer off every corner. Right. Now the vets are like, small business, woo!
That's the truth. And, I told a buddy once upon a time, I was like, I'm going to open a rum. I'm just going to start making a rum and do it. He goes, do what you love and you never work a day in your life. I'm like, I'd be so drunk every day.
He'd probably never drink it.
Probably. Because you're around it so damn often. So, where does all this life take you, dude? So you got out of the Marine Corps, the only branch that matters, and I love saying that because I just, I get all kinds of
true. It's true, and it's not nice to lie. I'm with you.
And now you're doing this whole mortgage thing. How the hell did that happen?
Dude, I've been backing into pools of green jello my entire life. If you met my wife, you'd be like, dude, what? Man, God's blessed us in a lot of ways. What I'll say is I had an opportunity to learn from my stepfather. I took advantage of that opportunity, learned from him. We did a lot and still do a lot together. Ultimately, he wanted to go in one direction, which was his company. It was his right to do. And I felt after a long time of trying to grab the rudder, I was finally like, listen, I'm sorry, it's your rudder. You're going that way? Sorry, I've got to go this way. So, man, I love you. And we still have conflict and stuff, but I worked for him for 5 years. For the first 6 months, I was his assistant. I almost quit. He almost fired me. Instead, we decided to become a loan officer and do my own thing. create realtor referral relationships and manage those. And that worked really well. So I did that for another 5 years, originated a lot of mortgages, all in referral stuff. I've done 4 and 5 loans for the same client. I don't mean on their one same home. Refinancing, I'm like Freedom and Quick and do all the time. But I mean, I'm on second homes and selling and purchasing new and upgrading or renovating. And what I mean to say is interacting with a person for the course of their life in a specific regard, because I believe that I'm the type of steward that needs to watch over for them, you know, in that category, and I know how to do it. So created the company that I have now so that I could do that a little bit better. It's going really well. We've transitioned from an abacus-like system to an all-mobile, digital, everything talks to each other electronically system. It's an app-based thing that people can hold. Like they can see a Domino's ticker tracker of where they're at in the loan process. And there's a message board and a list of contacts with pictures, and it's pretty and it makes sense, right? You can take pictures and upload your documents. So I've tried to create a better experience now that I have a place to create, because here's what I'll say is one thing everyone listening should pay attention to. His name is Jacob Barnett, and he's a young kid. He did this video when he was 11. It was called Learn, Think, Create. The kid's smarter than I'll ever be. But it's a short video. It was like a TED Talk he did. And it's phenomenal. It talks about the stages of life we each should go through, and you can go through it in multiple avenues. But there's a learn, a thinking, and then a creating stage that all of us need to go through to fulfill who we are and what we're doing. Like, I'm really good at loans, but if I don't know what my why is this week, I'm going to suck. I'm going to go through the motion. We call it, in the Marine Corps, when you're fixing the rack and you're pretending like you're busy. I'm not going to say it, but but I mean, looking busy, right? So, sorry, I lost my train. I was trying to not drop the F-bomb here, and it totally derailed me.
You can. I don't edit out. You're good.
Oh, no worries at all. But just creating a better home, a better place to do everything for people in, and being able, in that learn, think, create phase, going from learning from my mentors, which was huge. David Roosh, my stepfather, who was also a spiritual mentor for me, and several other people who are much smarter than I am. I'm okay with saying it. I'm proud to say it, actually. I pride myself in the ability of finding smarter than people than me to interact with. And when I can't, I do podcasts. But I love you, man. I'm trying to get some of these jokes you've been raving about. Like, you haven't even had one. It's like you're sitting here, and all you can do is look me square in the beard and think, God. But
I'm so glad y'all can't see this asshole.
Learn, think, right? Learn what you're doing, how you're doing something, what it is. Think about it. How do you interact? How do you problem solve? How do you create value? And create. How are you going to create in this space? And I've always been the overactive kid. Fidget spinners were built for me, not the stupid kids that play with them and get distracted by the actual teaching. But I needed 7 things to do at once so that I could focus on whatever the hell you were going to say that I didn't care about, right? That was the type of kid I was, because I wanted to be in that funky dancing naked in the rain creating stage. But Jacob Barnett, Learn, Think, Create. I want to encourage everyone to listen to that because, man, get to that last stage.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you basically got into your business because you're not capable of working with other individuals. Just want to make sure that's that all out there. I'm the same way. I get it. I
have 2 employees, and I'm taking on a 3rd, so it's not everybody.
Oh, right,
I try to tell people, like, if I can't work with you, chances are it's not me.
Right. I tell everybody that, the story of my life is I'm the common denominator in every bit of it. So,
right.
Success and failure, it's all me.
That's right. You're absolutely right, man. That's the problem with going somewhere new is you take yourself with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did a whole episode on, you can't run away from yourself. And that was, my story of going to the Marine Corps. Every job I took, everything was all trying to run away from myself until I finally realized everywhere I go, there I am, So now you have this whole mortgage business where you do all kinds of stuff, and I get that. That's cool. What I want to talk about is your rants. So people who haven't seen you go on about mortgages, you got this phrase, and this is where I knew I wanted to have some fun with it, is you got this phrase that debt does deals. And you challenge anybody in the world to take you on in this whole conversation. And I have seen you duke it out in the social space with people over this whole concept. So with fear of poking the bear, what the hell does debt does deal even mean?
Oh, man, I'll tell you, but you're going to have to take the pill that I send and get the tattoo. Now, listen, here's what it is. And every person out there that's a veteran that should speak to, every person that is married and in their first marriage especially, but if they're in their second or third and they're really working to stay in that marriage, right? There's a lot of different illustrations. I'll make the point here, but debt does deals simply is how stuff gets accomplished. Honestly, it's not your value or your money that typically accomplishes the greatest opportunities in your life. It's your obligation or your debt. So another way of saying this, a lot of people think that money and debt exchange to create economy. But it's a false logic because money is just another type of debt. It's a Federal Reserve note. I'm not going to go into that. What they should say is obligation and value exchange constantly to create community. We're all called to be in community together, and it's a good thing, but you have to make certain that your obligations and values are being traded accordingly and working back and forth with each other. But when you're talking about value and obligation, when a person meets extraordinary opportunity in life, you're not going to have enough value to purchase it. That's the nature of extraordinary opportunity. And whether it's your house, money, okay, of things that you possess. So here's what I mean to say. Your house, your marriage, my salvation, all of it was signed for at once, but it's purchased with my ongoing obligation to it. In the measure of what you have as an individual to spend, be it value or obligation, it's my opinion that your obligation is far more powerful than your value ever will be.
And give me an example of what you mean by obligation.
Your marriage.
So I'm obligated to my wife, right?
If you choose to be, and it's far more powerful if you have a productive marriage. Everyone that's been married 20, 30, 40, 50 years will further testify the value that they achieve from obligating themselves to the marriage, but it's because they don't have enough value to buy the marriage. You can't buy a marriage.
My old man says it all the time. Now, I say he says it jokingly. My parents been married for 46 years, I think, 47. And Dad always says, well, it's cheaper to keep her.
Yeah. But it's through your obligations, not some value thing. You don't just sign your marriage certificate, it's over. It's continued obligation, minute by minute, and you're purchasing value in a relationship. You're gaining that relational value through those continued obligations, much like with a mortgage or with a house. I don't care whether you have a mortgage or not. You have insurance and you have taxes on it. You have obligations on it to achieve the value. Okay, so it's really a moot point. You have obligations achieving things, and then you have value. Like you can go out and spend $500. You can go out and say, hey, I'll trade you an hour for, and you can barter your values, right, to things to gain something, right, to buy an iPhone or something along those lines. But when it comes to your marriage, look at your enlistment. You enlisted. Dude, that's obligation. You obligated your ass to whatever the hell they told you to, whenever the hell, your mouth, literally, and in those order.
Let me tell you, I had no idea what the hell I was getting into when I signed that document.
So you can't say stuff. You can't go places. You can't be friends with John anymore. And John was your best friend, you know? Like, you're obligated. You've obligated yourself for a certain set of values, and you knew which values you were getting when you chose that obligation, but you chose an obligation. You didn't have enough value to buy it because you had to obligate yourself to get it. So value purchases
in a different way, in more layman's terms for me, because I'm a blue-collar dude, and I need things put in a very simple fashion, is the amount of effort I put in, which maybe you're labeling as obligation, puts out a certain amount of value. So if I can't afford something, it's I'm not putting out enough effort to increase the value I have or increase the dollar I have to be able to do what I need to do. Is that basically what you're saying?
No, not really. I'm talking more of a macro level. I'm just talking about a very simple thing. There's two exchanges to gain new opportunities, to accomplish new things. You can exchange two variables, value or obligation. If you want to understand what I'm talking about, go on the tribe, and now you'll have to share this later in a comment or something. Yep. My 3-year-old models the exchange of value and obligation perfectly. And she'll come at me.
Down bottom, yeah.
She'll come at me and she says, hey, hey, Dad, can I have some Fruity Pebbles? Because I have the value, I have the Fruity Pebbles. And I tell her, well, if you go pick up the floor, brush your hair, brush your teeth, and get your clothes on for the day, sure. So she gives me her obligation to achieve my value because she didn't have anything of value yet to achieve the Fruity Pebbles. So she needed me to get to the Fruity Pebbles, right, to extend to her the Fruity Pebbles through her being able to obligate herself, unless I'm just a pushover and give her Fruity Pebbles, but not my house. Dad does deals, baby. Dad does deals. You know the thing that I love about Dad?
What he doesn't say is, he didn't say Dad does deals. He says
Debt.
I know. Debt does deals. So get your ass to work, kid. Clean the damn house, and I'll give you the Fruity Pebbles.
Money, the thing that determines the value of money is sentiment until it has terms. When you've given money terms that it must abide to, that's debt. Your 401k, if you take a loan out on it, guess who the second lien or the first lien holder is? Uncle Sam. That's debt. You have all of these instruments. These financial advisors are really nothing more than massive experts of debt brokers. People have to understand that the 101 level.
When you say financial advisor, though, use that term expert extremely loosely.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. I'm just saying they're the ones that wield most of the products that are actually debts. They're more obligations than their value purchases and continuance, right? But they're not talked about or viewed that way. Right. Or they don't understand. They don't see a 401k as a debt. But it is. The lien holder in that situation is actually Uncle Sam. So I'm not sure how to get around those, but debt, when you give money terms to abide to, it's a type of debt, and that's when your value must maintain certain things. So you achieve new things when you can obligate yourself properly, and I extrapolate that over specifically to mortgage debt in my world. I bought a house for $332 with $0 down. This is a perfect example of my concept in a vacuum. With a VA home loan, with a $0 down home loan, I purchased a house for $332,000, and a little over 5 years later, we sold it for $810,000.
Was the house valued that much? I mean, that's twice what you paid for it.
So we bought I have a 5-step process. I teach something called a 5-year VA house hustle. It's a 5-step process where I go through unique tenants in these 5 steps, but market, location, acquisition, rehab, and sell. And I talk about some unique features in there in those videos that I do. They kind of guide you on how to know whether the timing's right, whether the location's right, the acquisition metrics on the product, all of those type of things meet certain things. And when they do, you can set yourself up for massive gains. So at the time we bought for $332 and it appraised for $348,000. We put, about $115, $120 in cash flow improvements in it over the 5 years. So a little over $20 a year, probably rehabbing it and getting everything back to where it needed to be. And there we go. Boom. The market gets to the right point. We sold. We transitioned down here to Texas, and a lot of people are like, well, it's all well. You did that up there, but can you do it again?
Well the cool part, market.
Well, now it is for sure.
Yeah.
5 years ago it was not, but now it is. And the A+ markets in Texas 5 years ago were doing really well too. But that house, because we did a cash out refi year 3, and then when we sold, I cashed out like $360 in equity, and then we sold and I got another $140 something in equity. So literally over $500K to my pocket, tax free, through principal pay down, forced savings, through repairs, and equity growth.
Nice.
In a little under 6 years. And the house that I bought here in Texas, appraised value came in $200 over my purchase price because I'm timing the market right and the right asset type.
Yeah, I didn't do that when I bought my house.
Most people don't, man. That's why I've created the plan, buddy.
No, I love that. And I love the fact that you're actively sitting with people and teaching them this process. You know, I joke and bust your chops about your videos and you know, your content and everything else, because sometimes you throw shit out there like you're trying to pick a fight, but it's working. Because your name is known in certain, especially in the veteran community, your name's known just for taking a stance and challenging traditional philosophies of things, which I really, really enjoy. But
if you're going to move somebody off of a thought that they're on and that's been well ingrained into their minds and it's going to be difficult, you have to get them postured, right? I know people are going to be skeptical, so I get them postured the way that I need them to be to attack the information in certain intervals, right, and spacing, which is always a problem. The people aren't they're patient, right? Because I want them to attack concepts, not to defeat it, but simply to allow their well-defined constructs to be attacked and challenged, because if they can undergo it and come out, then they should be happy. I'm always willing to go into an argument, and when I say argument loosely, I mean a discussion of concepts where we have general opposition, because if I lose, I walk away with a better tool.
Right. Nah,
and I like better tools.
And most people can't do that. Most people cannot have an adult conversation without getting emotional as part of that conversation. So I think this is a talent of yours, brother, that you go into a situation knowing who you're going to be walking in and coming out, which is a talent in itself. You may walk away with some extra knowledge, but you're not going to lose your head. You're not going to, you know, get over the top.
I know the mission I'm on, man, and I know how people react to things. What we're talking about here is the largest emotional and financial decision that a person is going to make, that I deal with every day. I deal with it every day, and I love it. I love having the opportunity, the pleasure of getting to assist people during that time. But that makes me capable, I think, that and having 3 daughters, right? But it makes me capable of standing in there in some of the harder places and making certain that they stick to a pace to where progress can go through and happen. And debt's a difficult one. It's a difficult pill to swallow, man. Dave Ramsey's got everyone's brain screwed up.
Just for the record, I'm with you on Dave Ramsey's whole go broke to make money process where you can't live on anything and be miserable as hell. I had some friends that went through that program, and they'll tell you it was the most miserable 2 years of their life.
I went through the program. We paid off on a corporal pay, Lance Corporal and corporal pay. In about 12 months, we paid off like $90,000 in consumer debt with every bit that we could and different stuff with 2 jobs. And we robbed ourselves in years of opportunity.
Yeah.
We robbed ourselves, you know, and I kind of regret it. I don't disagree with every single thing that he teaches. The one thing I will tell to every single listener out there is I'm going to be redoing Dave Ramsey's baby steps to success, right? And my very, very first baby step, it's very simple, and every one of them can start today. It's give. Dave Ramsey saves give till baby step 7, and this is where he gets it wrong. I see homeless people walk into homeless shelters and give $1. Give half of a uneaten like strawberry satchel over to these shelters that take care of other homeless people. And the thing I always tell people is I don't want to help you if you're not willing to give to other people, because I want to help people because those people want to help other people, because that's the way it should be, right?
Right.
That happy will, keep it going. But baby step 1 is give. Everybody can give something. Time, kindness, money, if that's all you can give all the time. I'm a business guy, and I've been told by many people that I should be more comfortable with just giving money because I'm so busy. They're smart and know how to get to my heart.
Well, that's just a good salesperson. But no, dude, this is so awesome. So you're creating this whole baby step. Is that something that's going to be released to the general public? I mean, is that something you're selling, or is that just something you're giving away? What are you doing with it?
Man, all of the stuff that I've been creating, I give it away. Right now, I've already done my 5-part series. There's 5 25-minute videos or so on the 5-year VA house hustle. I have a small mortgage brokerage in 3 states. The majority of the people that consume my information, I mean the majority, probably 95%, I can't work with. I'm not looking to scale my business, so it's just information I'm giving to people. It's like, listen, guys, this is what I'm doing. This is why I'm doing it. This is how I'm going about it. I'm on number 2 in this part. I'm just trying to tell those people with ears to listen so that they can hear some good news, man, and put to work one of the biggest benefits that they have with that VA home loan. after I spend a few years doing this with vets specifically, because some of this is time sensitive because the markets aren't always going to be what they are, I will be releasing just a 5-year house hustle for the civilian side of it, because that is another clientele that I cater to. But right now I'm just putting out in a lot of veteran communities, like you've already talked about. My process is literally everyone's like, well, what do you do in these communities to go in and become like the resident expert? It's like I walk in.
Forward on a string of a grenade, you launch the damn thing in there, go big and loud, and it's working.
Yeah, I throw a grenade off the top of the turret, and I stand up on it and say, hi, I'm Christopher. Someone asked the other day, well, that was you posted, you said, someone asked you how you would own the stage, and man, no joke, I would say, hey, can you back up for a second? And after they did, like, I would step back forward and just continue talking. Like, what do you mean, how do I own the stage? Like, I needed you to back up. You're backed up. You don't need to know why, right? Absolutely. And so I do things too. I have a purpose. I go about things for a reason. I know what lane I can help people in, and I want to, man. And so this baby steps that you're talking about to building wealth, I intend to write some books, and I've been talking to some people, but I'm not a writer. I intend to put some of these things out there later, but right now, I don't want to wait to get the information to people until I have time to do all of that. So right now I'm using Facebook Lives and some other places just to put information out so people can consume it on how to get through it. Baby step 1, give. If you're interested, follow me, on some of the vet play pages. If you don't know where those are at, get out there and look. That Does Deals is the name of my company. You can find me on there and stuff, but I'll be going through the steps and I'll share them with you too so that you can post, or maybe we can do some follow-ups on them too. But they're going to be my keys to success and what's helped me more than anything. And I'll tell you, nothing has helped me to success more than giving, whether it's giving to my family, my children, my church, my community, my clients, serving other people's needs first, giving. Right, in some way. Zig Ziglar says it. He says, if you help enough people get where they want to go, you'll never have to worry about getting where you want to go. And I agree, man. That's good medicine. Well, serve other people.
Yeah, there's a great book that I love by a gal named Jen Sincero. And she wrote a book called You're a Badass at Making Money. And she talks very similar to this aspect, spends more time on the mental focus than a tangible focus and how to get your mindset. But one of the greatest things I love, she points out, one, she's 100% in agreement with you about debt, right? I mean, you've got to take a risk in certain areas, and you're not getting a successful company for sure without going in debt. Just, it's impossible. The second thing she really talks about is the give, and she actually challenges people to go out for 30 days, and every day you give. Now, she's talking about doing a financial give, and she says, look, I don't care if you can give a nickel. But the problem you have is you don't have an abundance mindset because you're not giving and helping other people. Right? So by giving for 30 days, it's helped forcing you into an abundant.
So good, man. Yeah.
It's a great read. You should totally check it out because you and her are definitely on the same wavelength there.
Well, it's true, man. It really is. Like, and I know you're not spiritual, and that's cool. For me, God's commodity is different than ours. It's give if you want to receive. And it's true, man. And everything that I've ever gone into, and most of the time it'll change my heart. And there are plenty of times that I've given in places where everyone else would be like, why did you give there? It's like, because there was a need, you know what I mean? Like, I can take my emotion out and serve needs when they're there. And the cool thing is, like, what's more grown up than that? Like, you want to become an adult, like, start serving people that don't deserve it, right? Love people that don't deserve it because it's the right thing to do. Unless you're one of those people that don't think that, and then you probably suck. Yeah, like honestly.
This was awesome. This was everything that I wanted to capture, dude. So I really appreciate you coming in here and sharing your story with us. I love people that are taking on the status quo thought process and punching it in the face, because the way we've all been raised is – and that's one thing I enjoy about the millennials, is they are not a follow of the system like the way mom and dad did. And they're coming up in their own way, and I fucking love that. Was raised and you get one job, you work that for 30 some odd years, and that's kind of your mode. Even though I was never told to do that, that's kind of the mindset that I was always been raised under. So the fact that I finally jumped out and started my own business was huge. So I love the fact that people are challenging that current status quo. So I really appreciate that. So here's how I wrap up every show. and I do stump some people with this, so be forewarned. If you were to leave my audience with a quote, a phrase, a mantra, maybe something that they could use, especially when they're stacked up against it in life and they're maybe going through a tough time, whatever else, what would be that phrase you would say, when you're there, use this? And if you say debt, I'm
No, listen, I've got the perfect one for this, and I've tried to trademark it and take out a patent on it still, and I'm working on all of that. Aaron Nelson, looking out for you, buddy. I call it the inchworm, and I'm not stumped at all. I'm glad you asked me this question. I am the expert in this particular category. So when it comes to facing multiple challenges that are overwhelming, like I get it, life, we homeschool, I work from home, I hurt constantly, I sell on these stupid egg crate things, man, and Swiss balls and stuff. I have all of these people's needs that I'm constantly serving in my business with the biggest thing that they deal with, all of these big things. I'm a real estate investor. I have a couple of other companies. And so when I get to those points to where there's like shell shock going on and I can't see the forest through the trees, I can't have rational thought on the gross macro strategy. Like I do what Marines do best, man. I hunker down and go into slay mode, slay dragons, like everything. And if there's anything near me, I'll put it down. And if I can't do that, then that's where I get into what I call the inchworm, man. And I will lay there until I physically have enough mental strength, physical strength to know that I'm going to stand up one time, look at the goal that's in front of me next, and I've got a 6-foot plank coming at you, baby. I'm going to face plant right on you. And I got a face plant. That's it. I can stand up and face plant one time. Doesn't take much energy. It doesn't take much vision. So if that's all that I have is my inchworm, my face plant, right, I can cover 6 foot of ground at a time in a specific direction and make certain that I'm maintaining something. So look for that thing that's not very far away, that's next. Wait until you have the energy to stand up and hammer that one and do it. And then lay there and watch how those little successes build, and you have more energy to accomplish more and more each time you face one.
Freaking love it, dude. Love it. Dude, thanks so much for coming on the show. It's been awesome. Appreciate your handling my humor. You didn't cry once, which was nice. So thanks, dude, for really sharing.
There's no crying in mortgages. Tom Hanks said it.
Awesome, brother.
Guys, really thank you for listening to this episode. I really appreciate it. It's a lot of fun putting these together. I wanted to make sure before we get out of here that you knew what we were doing with social content. What we found was because of the podcast, we have a unique way of helping you get your social content out on a very easy way. What we're doing is we're interviewing people. And from that interview, we will capture a lot of information that will then be turned into videos, memes, articles, all things you can use for your social content. I know, like for me, one of the biggest struggles I had was, what do I put out there? What do I say on a regular basis? Well, we'll help do all that for you. So if this is at all of interest to you, reach out to us and let us help you grow your social media channel. I can tell you I did this for my business, and my social media is completely taking off. My Instagram, since I started doing this, jumped to over 10,000 followers, and it continues to grow. So if this is at all of interest to you, check the bottom of the show notes for the link that says, Get My Social Content Done